Chicago process then? Jumping back forward and just researching the movie online.
Chicago.
There's such a long list of rumored stars.
There were so many stars and so many producers and so many directors and so many choreographers and so you can't even imagine how many people were attached to Chicago over 10 years. It was a decade of development.
Right.
But we weren't involved in any of that because the moment Rob got the job and then requested that we be brought over to produce the movie for him, the moment that happened, we immediately started.
Right.
Bill Condon was hired instantly, and he started working on the script with Rob, and the whole process began, and we started casting, and before you knew it, we were ready, and we went and made the movie. So even though they had suffered for 10 years trying to figure out how to get it going, when we came on board, it happened very quickly.
Were there kind of a huge amount of rumored auditions and all this stuff going on in the background? Or?
Oh yeah, there was a long audition process to cast this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob set up camp in Westbeth, and that's where all the auditions, and everybody in Hollywood trotted through there, and eventually the choices were the choices that you've seen and hopefully are now identified with those roles.
How hard is it to turn down a big Hollywood star that's...
Well, the thing is, we never called what we were doing auditions, so that the stars would not be insulted. What we called them was a work session, just to test everybody's mutual compatibility in the room. So it was a fancy name for an audition, but it was not an insulting process for big stars to come in and do it.
Right. So do people get offended when they're not then asked to do the film?
No, well, first of all, Rob Marshall is such a wonderful human being, so kind-hearted, so generous, that his presence alone makes you feel accepted. So whether or not you got the part, you had a great time and you got a chance to work with Rob, and that's part of his brilliance, is that he is an embracing man.
What was the process of the movie's actual creation like?
It was great. I mean, it was really thrilling because, I mean, again, the original concept was Rob's concept of everything being seen through Roxy Hart's eyes. So once you had that idea, it was also very helpful to have Bill Condon, because not only is he a great writer, but he's also, a director. So he wasn't wearing his director's hat during that. He was only the writer, of course. But to have a mind that thinks like a director was a great collaborator for Rob. And it made it such an exciting and innovative collaboration. And everything came together really quickly. The only thing that didn't come together quickly was the finale. We had a tremendously difficult time. And this speaks to the whole concept of our philosophy about movie musicals. There are two camps. And one is called recreation, and the other is called reinvention. And the recreation camp are the people who believe that they want to recreate the Broadway theater experience on film. We're not in that camp. We're in the reinvention camp. We believe that if you're in Iowa or if you're in Berlin and you're watching Chicago, it doesn't matter that you've ever heard of Chicago, that you saw the Broadway show, you listen to the album. We have to make it a cinematic experience for the viewer without any background on the piece at all. And in reinventing Chicago from the stage show, what you discover when you start tearing it apart and putting it back together again is that in the show, you've got the courtroom sequence where they sing Razzle Dazzle, and all of a sudden the two women get off and they do the finale. And it's sort of like, you can't do that on film. Because film is a much more logical storytelling, and as a result, it's more naturalistic. So as a result, you can't get away with the things you can get with in the stage. On stage, you can do stuff with energy and excitement and movement and lighting, and all of a sudden, it's fine. The audience accepts it. So we got to the courtroom thing, and we were stymied because there was no piece there to make it work. And not only did we not figure it out during the long period of putting the movie together, we started filming the movie and we still had no ending. Bill Condon was writing draft after draft after draft of the courtroom scene until one day the concept came up about the diaries, Roxy's diaries, where Billy Flynn writes in her diaries, and therefore then it's almost like a sting, and gets the two women off in that way. So it was a very satisfying courtroom sequence, and then part of that became Richard Gere's tap dance in the courtroom. So, but there's an example of something that, the whole diary thing did not exist in the stage show. And that's something that we always look at in reinventing these shows for film.
That was such a huge success. At what point did you know or feel confident that it
Well,
was taking off?
what was good about that is that when we saw Rob's director's cut, we knew it was a good movie. So that's step one, to feel good about the work that was done and by Rob's work. And then Miramax did the most brilliant campaign by just getting some opinion makers to see it and just begin to grow the buzz. And it was the most extraordinary feeling to be there at the beginning and just feeling it somehow begin to explode. And as we were getting closer and closer and we were testing the movie and we put it out in front of audiences, we knew we had something special. And you think it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience being on that sort of train. But amazingly enough, it's happening again with Hairspray. It's kind of like it's a different train, but it's moving in the same direction, and you can't describe what it feels like. I mean, it just feels so warm that people are acknowledging the work that everybody's done. And that everybody gets it and everybody's feeling it. And it was that way with Chicago. It's that the idea to have a movie musical come out and for people to accept the genre, not just accept it, but to applaud it and to honor it, was significant in terms of the work that we wanted to do in terms of this whole movie musical genre, because we've been told over and over again that it's dead. So for it to happen with Chicago, and for us to have proceeded on this maddening quest, this quest which people thought we were insane about continuing, and then to have Chicago happen was so incredibly gratifying and to us as producers, and then to have it happen, it seems like it's happening again with Hairspray. It's even more so.
Touch wood there.
Touch wood, exactly.
Talking about movie musicals in general, what are your favorites other than?
Well, again, I think Craig and I share this with
Yeah.
odd passion for this one particular movie, and that's Cabaret.
Okay.
Cabaret, to me and to Craig, was the pinnacle of what a movie musical could be, because everybody thinks that movie musicals are light and fluffy and cannot tackle darker themes that kind of go deeper than just happiness.
Right.
But you do get the same joy out of Cabaret that you do get out of everything, but yet it just leaves you with something much more profound. And I think that's why we both respond to Cabaret.
What about least favorite?
Oh, I don't have a least. I can't.
Oh.
Least favorite? Okay, I'm willing to take it. I'm willing. This is
You're gonna go out on a limb?
I'm going to go out on a limb. I would say that there are a couple of least favorite, and one is Chorus Line, and one is the original Annie, which is the reason we redid Annie, because it's really an interesting phenomenon where, you take someone as brilliant as Richard Attenborough, who had just come off Academy Award-winning Gandhi, but then you give him Chorus Line.
Right.
It just made no sense from day one. And same thing with John Huston. Brilliant director, brilliant. But you give him Annie, John Huston directing Annie. So you end up with two movies that literally are the antithesis of movie magic in terms of musicals, and they just don't work. And I think that for us, I think they're learning tools, because I think you need to study the ones that don't work as well as the ones that do work, because you can very quickly learn what not to do when you make a movie musical.
Right.
So I think that it was important for us. It was very gratifying for us, like for instance when we made Annie, because Charles Strauss said probably, who wrote the music for Annie, said probably the nicest thing that anyone's ever said to us.
Right.
He said, guys, I've been watching the show on Broadway for a decade. I watched the John Huston version of the movie.
Right.
He said, I know the show in and out, of course. I wrote it.
Right.
And he said, until I saw your version of it, I didn't know what I had written.
Wow.
And it was the greatest compliment because we had taken it and reinvented it in a way that Charles was so proud of it and felt that it had so much more.
We felt we had gotten to the core of what Annie was about, which is really about putting together a new family. And that's something that is great for this generation to explore, because this is what we're doing now.
And did you get musicals now pitched to you left and right that?
You know, yes, the answer is yes, but the truth of the matter is that there aren't a lot of properties that are around that we would choose to want to adapt as a feature film.
Right.
Harvey Weinstein. And there's Adam Shankman.
Hello, Adam.
Harvey Weinstein offered us Rent 3 times.
Okay.
And he screamed at us each time saying, everybody wants to do Rent. Why don't you want to do Rent?
Yeah.
And we said, because we don't really see it. We don't comprehend it as a film.
Right.
And we're not saying, by the way, we weren't saying to him, don't do it as a film.
Right.
We weren't saying it won't make a good movie. We're saying that we do not know how to make it into a film. We just don't. So therefore, don't hire us because we'll screw it up.
Right.
And there are those moments in time when you work on certain shows, you have to go into it believing that you have a concept and a vision, and that in success it could be great.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't turn out that way, but at least you're going into it that way. If you start with something like Rent, where we didn't have any idea of how to do it,
Right.
we would fail.
Why do it?
We would fail before we even started.
Right.
So we didn't want to even begin playing around with it.
Yeah.
Another musical that we were offered that we talked about was the TV production of Once Upon a Mattress. ABC desperately wanted us to do it, and Carol Burnett wanted us to produce the movie. And we didn't really understand how to make it feel contemporary and fresh and new. So we bowed out. We said, we don't know how to do it. So therefore, don't use us, because we're not going to do a good job for you.
Right.
Hairspray was an example of the opposite way.
Right.
Where we really wanted to do it because we understood it. We saw it in one of the later previews, and we were desperate to do it. We thought it was a perfect follow-up to Chicago. And it's something that we understood, and it was a completely different type of show than Chicago was, but we had a grasp on it.
Mm-hmm. And next for you guys, I guess coming out is A Raisin in the Sun on ABC?
The next is actually a movie called The Bucket List for Warner Brothers, starring Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman, directed by Rob Reiner.
Right.
And that's going to open by the end of the year.
Okay.
And then early next year...
And that's a feature film.
Yes, feature film for Warner Brothers.
And then TV.
Then for TV, early next year, we have our new production of A Raisin in the Sun with Sean Combs, Felicia Rashad, Audra McDonald, and Sanaa Lathan, directed by the great Kenny Leon, who directed it on Broadway, who is our next rising star as a director. He's a brilliant man and will have an enormous future in film.
And then the next...
And by the way, what I want to add about that is that though we used the entire Broadway starring cast,
Right.
we didn't film the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a film play.
Right.
It is an actual motion picture. It's based on Lorraine
It is
Hansberry's
Lorraine.
work. It is Lorraine Hansberry's work, but it's a movie. It's opened up. It never looks like a stage play. It looks like an honest-to-God film.
Right.
And
They are 5 of the best film performances you've ever seen.
It's extraordinary. I mean, we're just like blown away by the movie, and we can't wait to show it to people and have people see it.
Can't wait till we can start covering.
Yeah,
Absolutely. We can't wait for BroadwayWorld to be posted.
It's spectacular. It's really spectacular.
Excellent.
The most important thing about these musicals, though,
Right.
is that you have somebody who understands how to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why, if you say, why is Hairspray great?
Right.
Hairspray is great because, in our book,
Right.
because of Adam Shankman.
Right.
Adam Shankman understands this form more than almost anybody we've ever met in our lives. And the great part of him growing up as a dancer,
Right.
and then becoming a choreographer who choreographed like 50 different movies and different musical numbers, and then became a film director. And this was the first time he had the opportunity to take every one of his skills and put them into one project.
See, when you do a movie musical,
Right.
you have to have somebody that speaks the same language. And movie musical language is a very rare language. You know, it's like the lost language of the Incas. You know, it's like one of these like languages that you have to unearth, and very few people speak it. Adam speaks it, and it became, after we met all the directors out there that were interested in doing it, it became very, very clear that Adam spoke that language and spoke it clearly and spoke it the same way we did. So it was really, really an easy choice once we sat with Adam.
Yeah.
I also think that we always felt that Adam was a terrific choreographer because we had seen a lot of the stuff he had done
And
in
tried
early
to hire him.
and tried to hire him, yes, in other movies. But I think that he even surpasses his earlier choreography. I think the choreography in this movie is so spectacular. I think the numbers explode off the screen. And what he's done choreographically is stupendous. I just think the numbers are amazing. So again, if people like the movie, if the movie does well, if people have a great experience, all I can say is thank God for Adam Shankman.
Yeah. You're not even saying that because he's over there.
No, I can't even see him.
No, and he can't hear it.
Absolutely.
Oh, oh.
Are you there?
Thank you very much for being here today. We'll
Sure.
Definitely have you guys back again and again.
Sure.
as
Thank you.
your
It's a
project
pleasure.
comes along.
Great.
Love Sardi.
Thanks
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.